I'm calling this meeting to order, the January 10th meeting, and can we have a roll call, clerk call?
Sure. Supervisor Hewitt.
Here.
Trustee Robinson.
Here.
Trustee Page.
Here.
Trustee McGovern.
Here.
Trustee Geis.
Here.
Assessor Trowbridge.
Here.
Highway Commissioner Young.
Here.
Okay, great. Can we have a pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You can hear Ross.
There's no sound.
Okay, John, can you hear? I just want to make sure that the audio is okay.
Yes, I can hear.
Okay, I think two people here are hearing Ross. Is it possible for you to check your audio? You're not hearing.
I'd like to make a motion to use the attorney for being.
I can hear you.
Now you can hear?
Yeah, I could now.
Thank you. Okay, we're at the number 4 public comment. And we'll start with in-person public comment.
Before we start with public comment, I'd like to make a motion to excuse Attorney Ross Eckler from tonight's meeting since he's on Zoom in that one.
Okay, Attorney Steckler, is that even possible to do that at this point?
Sorry, I just, was it to excuse me for the meeting?
Oh, yes, she wanted you to go. Is that even possible?
I mean, it's possible, but I would strongly advise against it. I don't know why you wouldn't.
Oh, right. So it sounds like you're well enough that you can attend. Is there?
I'm like, yeah, I appreciate it. I appreciate the concern. I'm well enough to be here for, for now. I really didn't want to get anyone else sick either. And so, but I do really appreciate the concern.
Will you be attending next month's meeting?
Yes.
Okay, back to public comment. Ms. Young? We'll just go in a circle, just making, in the future, there's a variety of ways that we can do shorter. Any other public comment? Great, online. I know John DeCanto had a public comment.
No.
Okay, well then, any other public comment online? Tanya? Or Jerry or Jax? Okay, I'm not seeing any other public comment online, and there is one public comment that was made, and I'll go run and get that printed version.
Hi, Koki. What's your girl doing?
That, and I'm going to mute the audience online.
He is online. Would you like to read his own from Jerry Galloway?
Jerry, would you like to read your own, or would you like the clerk to?
The clerk can read it.
Thank you.
Okay, this is from Jerry Galloway. Dear Lisle Township Board of Trustees, I'd first like to thank you for hiring a new accounting firm with extensive municipal experience and in a cost savings for the township. This is a good decision. I never thought I'd see an attorney as a vestigial tale, but Lisle Township's hiring of redundant representation benefiting only a second law firm and attorney and wasting tens of thousands of taxpayers' dollars proved me wrong. I find it appalling that the trustees would employ a second law firm, making Lisle Township the only township in the state to do so. The township attorney is in the employ of the township, not the supervisor, and from what I've seen, he's been giving the township his best legal options and opinion in all matters, regardless of what anyone in the boardroom wants to hear. The township attorney is from an old renowned law firm bound by the law and a code of ethics, and having someone looking over his shoulder unjustly impugns his ability and his work. Please address my concerns surrounding the Lisle Township Transportation Department. I was of the belief that the board was working towards growing the transportation department. You had a pace van, a full-time driver, and an operations manager capable of filling in as necessary when the regular driver was on. As I understood it, you had medium-term plans to grow the department by adding a second vehicle and driver as demand grew. Now I understand that the township couldn't afford the salary of the operations manager and he was let go, together with the director of senior services. These were two employees most responsible for promoting the transportation department and driving its usage by the elderly and disabled. Excuse me. This leaves your constituents and ride patrons with questions. Who do you have to fill in for the driver when he needs a day off? Do you have plans to contract for a second vehicle? Will the township hire a ride share or taxi to provide service to the elderly and disabled when the normal van is not in service? Who will promote the ride service to those in need moving forward? All the best for this new year, Jerry Galloway.
Thank you. Public comment is then closed. Next is the accountant's report. And Kelly,
Yeah, hi. I just wanted to come back and reintroduce myself. It's been probably about 5 months since I was here in front of all of you for our proposal. So I just wanted to say hi, kind of give a brief run through of kind of what the last week has looked like since we just started last Wednesday on board. We're really excited to be on board. Obviously, first addressed immediate needs of, cutting checks and making sure payroll was wrapped up, getting bank reconciliations done for December, getting board reports out to you guys on Friday. So that was our first priority, obviously. In the next few weeks, and we'll be able to spend a little more time digging in. I know that there's been some concerns of some of maybe the accounting. Also have some ideas and thoughts that we're already going through for some additional internal control procedures and policies to create some efficiencies. So looking forward to getting with that and working with everybody here. So.
Thank you. Welcome.
What's the question? Is your intention to transfer us to a different bookkeeping system?
That's the intention. I think Wes had briefly mentioned it, and this call before I was out of time for the call with a minute time. So yes, it is. With a lot of, government clients that we work with, we utilize a system called Accounting CS. It's a Thomson Reuters product. It is not a Lauterbach and Eamon product. That is a more useful product for fund accounting. QuickBooks is, simply complicated. I don't know the right words for it, but it's not really utilized or useful in the best way for fund accounting. And so that would be our recommendation, is moving over into that. There's no cost associated with that or contract that would have to be signed. That also allows easier access as well for us, but we can also set up access. I know, Ed, I think you have access to QuickBooks, and that's something that we can also set up.
And there's others as well, but also if we didn't employ you any longer, would there be a service fee to keep that software?
Specifically with Thomson Reuters, you would have to license it through Thomson Reuters to keep that software. Yes.
And we don't think that's.
I can find out for you.
I think a lot of people who use QuickBooks are comfortable with it.
Sure.
And
I will say, so we provide any of the training for accounting CS as well. So how to utilize it, how to, print out reports, how to view account detail, general ledger history, all that stuff too. So we provide all of that. It is extremely user friendly. I find more user friendly than QuickBooks sometimes. So.
she would agree with you.
Well, I've never used accounting CS, but I mean, yeah, I use QuickBooks Online, which I know is more difficult than the hard copy.
Yeah.
But
Oh, the transformation into the new software, would it pick up all the history as well?
It would, yep, we would, all we have to do, so QuickBooks and accounting CS actually can talk to each other. And we can do an import of your file directly into accounting CS, so all of the history would come along with it.
Thank you.
And then savings by not having to license QuickBooks.
Correct.
So we raise our hands and we'll address you and everything like that. So any other questions?
I have a question.
Trust you guys, and so we raise our hands.
Supervisor, you asked me when I had a question, so I said I had a question. My question for you is the audit of expenditures is usually done the hour before the meeting. And I have expressed pretty strongly in the message back that it's not fair to expect the trustees to have to come here at 3 o'clock in the middle of the business day. And so, if that expectation had not been set for us, that we would have to, by securing, refer that we would have to adjust schedule.
Okay.
So do you anticipate someone being able to be here to do the audit at 6:30?
That probably is not likely, so I would say back to that, I know that there was, communication a couple different times that we would not be in attendance at every meeting. And so our goal of getting all of those reports over on Friday is so then there's, you know, you guys, I don't think we're getting them that quickly prior. But to be able to have more time for review, to ask questions, so then that way we can get you answers back so that you have those answers before the meeting.
At the audit of expenditures, not the meeting. That's what I'm referring to.
Yeah, no, I know. I wanted to make
Oh,
that
okay.
point just in general of being able to review. So specifically for the audit of expenditures, I don't know if there's a way to maybe, could we do it a different day or find some wiggle room? Because I understand what you're saying, but if we're not at the meeting, that might be difficult then to be able, I know today we did it at like 3, but it might be difficult for someone to be there.
We have to rotate this responsibility.
Sure.
As the senior trustee, I do the schedule.
Okay.
And I know that it would be almost impossible for me to do 3 o'clock, so we can talk about it another
Okay.
time. I just wanted to ask you
Yeah.
while we were here, but we can talk about
Okay.
And one of the really great aspects of this is like today, if I had known and even an hour earlier the question, then I could have had answers. So generally, it makes a shorter meeting. We would be having a savings cost by having shorter meetings and lesser legal bills, and your questions would be answered, which is a really great benefit. Trustee McGovern.
Oh, what are your hours on Mondays and Wednesdays? Do you have set hours? Like today I had to rearrange some classes in my
Sure.
schedule to get out, but I was just wondering,
Yeah,
is
so
4
if it-
o'clock still a possibility?
Yeah, 4 o'clock is a possibility, absolutely. So typically our normal office business hours are 8 AM to 5 PM,
Okay.
is what our typical hours are. I'm pretty flexible with time, obviously, this morning we had meetings and I'm here still too.
Great,
So
go
that,
on.
yeah,
Great.
not a problem. at all.
Just
So
wanted to know what.
and I want to make sure that you guys know, like, we are fully willing to be flexible, and I understand, obviously, as trustees, you guys have other jobs and other things going on, so it makes it hard to do some of that sometimes, and so we're totally willing to work with you guys and be flexible in what is needed, so
Thank you
we
for being
can,
so
yeah.
accommodating.
Highway Commissioner Young.
When do you anticipate that you just?
They'll go out before the end of the month, because that's when they're required to go out by. So that is our next priority. Next week we'll be processing payroll, as it's payroll week, and then after that, that was when we will be processing the quarterly terms, W-2s and 1099s.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Does anybody want to make a motion to go to audit?
I'll make a motion to enter into the audit of expenditures.
Thank you, Trustee McGovern.
I'll second.
Thank you, Trustee Robinson. And then a roll call vote, Clerk Palowitz.
Trustee McGovern,
Yes.
trustee Robinson.
Yes.
Trustee Page.
Yes.
Trustee Geist.
Yeah.
Supervisor Feely.
Yes. And then any discussion?
Well, I'll give an update. Trustee McGovern and I went through the audit of expenses today. And I know it's the first time we're working with you, so appreciate all your flexibility. I can highlight that there were three items that were auto paid that we're still looking to find the supporting material for.
We
We
have,
didn't find them, yep. We
All
have
three of them?
Yep,
except for the Department of Revenue.
Right.
which I think was the one you were gonna give me.
Yeah, I'll get
Yep.
you a contact for that. Okay, so I will follow up on that. We did identify one duplicate QuickBook entry, which is going to be resolved. It was only one check, confirmed one check went out, but it was a duplicate entry in QuickBook that'll be resolved. We did have one payment where the invoice amount was different than the QuickBook entry. That was for public services, and that's going to be reviewed by and resolved by.
Yep, it was resolved. It was just a transfer, it was 23 cents instead of 32 cents. It was just. a transfer.
Perfect. I'm also highlighting, and I don't know if I have to or not, but I'm also going to highlight that we void. There was a discussion of pulling three checks. And I'll talk about those. They were basically for the Ansel Glink, the law firm, Otisel, Murphy, Fraser, and McGrath, the second law firm. And I think this is in response to our concerns around legal costs, that we want to get a better understanding of what each one of those firms is bringing to the table, and make sure that we can control costs. And there has been another adjustment. Mr. Galloway did not talk about it, but there's a position, an interim township administrator who is being brought into the organization who will have oversight of our expenditures. And a big part of what we're asking that role to do is to help us manage expenses, particularly for professional services and legal services. And so what we're anticipating is when this person's on board, hopefully very soon, that there'll be a come together of those firms. And actually, there's a third firm as well. There's a legal, there's our employment lawyer. And they'll build for that. So we really have got a situation we need to focus on. Minimizing future expenses in the legal as well as some of the other professional services areas. Another check that we're pulling is something that I phoned the supervisor, but we weren't able to resolve. And so that's something that supervisor is reviewing, and will get back to us as to what the nature of that payment was. So those are the three we're going to pull. Anything else?
I would just make it a little bit clearer that,
Palowitz.
I would just make it a little bit clearer that we're not just pulling those invoices because we want to get a better handle on what's, how we're being charged, but there were specific things on the bills that we really do need. Some are just wrong, there's a couple on there for the mental health board that really should not be on there. There's the one that we need a little bit more definition for about the erroneous
Yeah, I was gonna bring
accusation.
that up.
Okay, I'll wait a second then for that. There's also, someone, had asked about, there's research about if any of the elected officials are, not able to perform their duty for an extended period of time. They kind of need to know who really asked for that, to be able to be researching that. And so there's a lot of questions of who asked for certain things because they seem to be out of the scope of what we're looking for. The other ones on Carrie Lynn's were more to the question of there are things on there that she really is not being hired for to do. So we see that there's a lot of conferences between the attorneys. So we do not know who's initiating that. And then there are things on there from the supervisor requesting from Carrie Lynn and weed ordinances. And these are not items that we have said that that she was going to be hired for. So we're questioning certain line items, and maybe we could get those written down, or so we could go through them before the next billing cycle.
So just to clarify, so you're not paying either my invoice or Carrie Lynn's invoice tonight?
Raise his hand.
Huh?
You
I
can
can't
raise
hear.
your hand.
Excuse me, who's, I'm legal counsel. Who would be talking? Is that someone on the township board? No. I'm just trying to get clarification if that's what's happening tonight.
Yes, that's what's happening.
Okay, well, first of all, this is not the way to do this. You should contact me individually if you have a question about legal bill. Same with Carrie Lynn. The exact same thing. If you have any questions in advance of this meeting, I'm not going to go through in a public meeting about privileged information. You can also talk to one another individually about who asked for what, because you all know, because the individual trustee who asked for some of that research would know. You could also, and so I am floored. I would implore you to reconsider that because Carrie Lynn and I will have to figure out what action to take in order, and what we would have to do if you refuse to pay our bills, because when you don't pay a bill like this, you're saying they're fraudulent, and you don't have the right to do that. And if you really think it's fraudulent, then do it. Tell me that it's fraudulent, and I will prove to you that it is not. And Madam Clerk, you are out of line. You are not a member of the trust. You are not a trustee or the supervisor. Please. I don't know why the highway commissioner is reviewing our bills. I don't know. That's neither here nor there. We issued a revised bill. And so to get rid of that, one of the other issues, but I just wanted to make sure that is very clear, that this is a big problem if you decide to do that.
Thanks. My hands.
And again, Attorney Sinclair, would this have been cleared up if you had a little bit more time to respond to the situation? If it wasn't at the very end, meaning that the audit of expenditures was done at 3 o'clock and there wasn't any inputs to Attorney Sinclair that this was going to be the case.
If anyone would have just given me a call, individuals say, what's this on the bill? What?
Hold that thought, please. 1 second.
You guys,
You're on it. I know you don't feel well, and you just went on sort of a bit of a tangent that felt very threatening. There's an audit of expenditures that happens before the meeting, so no one would have known there was a question until the audit of expenditures happened. So nobody's saying they're refusing. There was no word refusal used. It got pulled from the audit of expenditures. It didn't get approved because there were additional questions. And you, as the attorney, on your behavior this evening, it's okay for us. The clerk has to. She has a responsibility to approve of the audit of expenditures. She's a witness. So of course she was clarifying what the questions were, but in no way did anyone say we were refusing to pay anything. When we have a question at the audit, pulled.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
Of expenditure, we have to pull it for further review. It's not a no, it's a, we have to review it. We have to review it further. So I really hope that you will reconsider some of the things that you said. I'm gonna chalk it up to that you don't feel your best this evening, but no one refused to pay anyone, and I don't appreciate the threats that were made. The subtle threats that were just made. That was very, very inappropriate and very unprofessional.
And if that's the case, if all you need is to wanted to discuss, that's absolutely fine, of course. It's more, when I heard it, because the connection had been cutting out, that I asked, are you refusing to pay the bill? And I was told, yes, I got.
No, that's not what happened.
That,
What happened is Supervisor Hewitt interjected. She was not the one at the audit of expenditure. You know that the process is every single month, we have to prove the audit of expenditure. Any question on that audit the check has to be pulled so we get clarification. This is not new. And I apologize that you cut out and missed some of it, but it's because Supervisor Hewitt interjected without giving either of us an opportunity to speak. And of course, in the passive aggressive nature as such, this is why now you had this upset response with us. So let's move past this. We have some questions. We'll get these questions answered and then we will approve the expense.
very good, thank you. I appreciate that.
Trustee McGovern.
I just like to clarify too, that the trustees do not have access to your invoices. The first time that we lay eyes on it is during the audit of expenditures. So that's just the.
And
So,
that's why-
you know,
Perhaps
the
we should-
procedure.
And that's something just that to consider, maybe we change
For
that.
any-
Talking,
Thank you. Highway, is there any other questions from a trustee or Highway Commissioner Young?
Counselor, one of your entries on your bill. I'll read it, or at least partially read it. Says telephone conference regarding general assistance fund expenditures and budget following email and questions raised by Highway Commissioner. Begin review of financial records and conduct research as a result of the Highway Commissioner's erroneous accusations. What were my erroneous accusations?
That first, there was a revised bill issued, so, and to clarify what that entire thing was about. That, if you would recall, I believe it was the 2 meetings ago, a couple hours before the meeting, the Highway Commissioner, yourself emailed saying that the General Assistance Fund was insolvent and that the trustees could not approve any expenditures out of general assistance, or they would be, I forgot what your conclusion was. And that required immediate investigation and looking into, and without knowing really the situation of what the actual accounting and what the funds were, and how things were being allocated, whether they were correctly allocated to general fund or the GA fund. So that's what that was all about. And I believe that the issue of the erroneousness was initially put down in the entry was because I don't believe it was insolvent, especially at that point. And I apologize if that is not the best language. I didn't intend it to be, and that's why a revised bill has been issued.
You rely on that says that my calculations were incorrect.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Did you rely on to assume or to prove my calculations were incorrect?
Just that I looked at the other records. There was no way that you could have known or anyone else would actually know and prove that there was insolvency, and there wasn't insolvency overall. And it was the same way that the township had been operating the GA fund, apparently with these transfers for years. And so that is why it was not an insolvent. The bank account and the fund balance still had funds in it.
The normal transfers that occur each month to cover the general assistance checks was not done in March, April, May of last year.
Okay, they
And so
should,
then- The normal accounting follows, and as a matter of fact, the supervisor told the accounting staff not to try and make any transfers.
probably because they weren't approved if they were transferred from Challenger or GA. Because you can't do that. I don't know, I'm speculating, I wasn't here in March, April, and May. So,
You assumed that everything was correct, and the accountant showed you a balance sheet that was not factual. And that's what you based your decision on.
that's what I
take-
based my assumption on, yes. Because we would assume that an accountant working for the township, over a different officer who's not a member of the township board would, that's what we would have to assume. I don't know, again, I don't know really what the main issue is here, other than I guess, appreciate you raised the issue. There may have been a different way that you could have raised that issue or that concern, and a different timing of which you could have raised that concern if you really wanted to help. But I have since issued a revised bill. Why, the highway commissioner is reviewing town bills, that's different. I don't know, that's okay. But that's,
I'm not permitted to do a bill in which you accuse me of erroneous information.
it is attorney-client privilege, but if you're being given to it by the client, that's a different issue. That's,
And I'm not supposed to report to the trustees about an accounting issue when I come across it. I'm supposed to wait to be more diplomatic.
no, you absolutely should report it, but an hour or two before the board meeting that they're gonna approve the expenditures at, that no one can actually verify what the figures are.
Why can't it?
There is no time. And so one of
just
the
don't
things that
folks that
we're
open it
trying to
up.
do is have time enough to get you answers. And exactly why
That's where I
it's been
expect a written
extremely
apology.
helpful for that Lauterbach and Amen, who are extremely helpful at getting these answers. Clerk Hollitz.
Attorney Seckler, I would really appreciate if you would rescind your comment that I was out of line to discuss the audit of expenditures when I am in fact part of every single audit of expenditure.
Yes, and I do apologize, Madam Clerk. I thought, as I said, I thought you were, that the board was refusing to pay my and Carrie Lynn's legal bills, and outright refusing, and so I was quite upset. And so I do apologize to you personally and in your professional and official capacity.
Council?
And to be clear, when we don't pay, when we don't approve something, that means technically we are not paying it for until at the very earliest, the next special meeting so that it can be paid or until any questions are met. That's why if we give a day in advance or a few hours in advance, then all of this could have been solved. Trustee McGovern.
Are we paying for this legal counsel as we argue your invoices or what you believe to the invoices that are turned down on? Are we paying for this time?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's why extremely helpful to do this in
Call me-
advance.
If you call me individually, you will not be billed for talking about billing, just so you know.
Again, I don't.
We're
know
talking
the
about
bill.
your outbursts.
I know about, you don't see the bill yet, so that's okay, but, and I apologize for that. Some places they get the bills to review in advance before the audit, but and I apologize for that, but you can, if you call me individually, you will not be billed to discuss billing.
Thank you.
Highway Commissioner Young.
Council, I would be glad to sit down with you and go through the books and show you where my calculations were correct. And I expect a written apology before the next meeting.
That's a nice expectation. That's fine. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
No, but
Trustee
I
Robinson.
would like to expedite the review of these invoices so that we can get and possibly schedule a special meeting to approve payment of them. So now let's get town administrator on board. Let's sit down to these reviews and let's expedite getting this taken care of. Because I value the opinion of both law firms. I want to make sure we can maintain a good working relationship with them. Let's move this forward as quickly as we can.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the audit of the expenditures?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the audit of expenditures.
Minus.
Minus, can you read off the check numbers?
Let me
Trustee
dig
Robinson.
into it. Let me dig into it. I'm sorry, I should have done that.
It would be,
I'm sorry, I left mine in my thing.
it would be check number 50658.
With exception of 50658.
There you go, I got it.
It would be check number 50696
And 50696
and then 50697.
and 50697.
I'll second.
Thank you, trustee McGovern and trustee Robinson. Any other discussion? In a roll call vote?
Trustee McGovern,
Yes.
trustee Robinson.
Yes.
Trustee Page.
Yes.
Trustee Geis.
Yes.
Supervisor Hewitt.
Yes. Okay, the audit of expenditures is passed. Next is the supervisor's report. The food pantry has been busy, feeding 716 families in December.
Sorry, do we have to do approval of bills and claims? Number 7, or we cover this
So-
one?
Sorry, moving to the approval of bills and claims.
We did.
We done that?
That's what I thought was just happening.
My apology.
Okay, back to the supervisor's report. The food pantry was extremely busy in December, feeding people for the holidays. Senior services has been much limited, to the medical lending closet. Transportation program is hobbling along, and LIHEAP. General assistance had 22 cases in December, spending 13,709,000, 43 LIHEAP applications, and fielded 266 casework calls. Transportation had 150 rides in December with 2 holidays this month. Time off and vehicle issues, it was a smaller number. The people who use this service overwhelmingly love it. It's extremely important to helping them stay able to do what they need to do. Total transportation revenue for the year was 3,029. Passports, there were 38 passports. Recycling has become extremely popular. It'd be very helpful to get the minutes of the meeting at the same time as the packets are due to ensure accuracy. In the minutes approved on December 13th, trustee Geis stated that she wished to make a motion to eliminate the operations manager and director of senior services roles because we believe that we have staff who can cover those positions so that we do not have a break in the continuity of services for purely budgetary reasons. There's definitely been a lot of breaks in continuity. That is not what was in the minutes. The minutes have not been uploaded since July last year. Included was a PACE bill from the previous, from October, so that you all see exactly how PACE bills us. Moving on to the discussion and possible action on resolution number 2024-01, a resolution to appoint members of the Community Mental Health Board. We have 2 of them here, and if you would like to introduce yourself to the board.
Hi, I'm Renee Cozier. I live in Lisle. I am a part-time professor at Hall University, where I teach leadership largely to adult graduate students.
Great. Does any trustee have any questions of Renee? Trustee Geist?
Who made you aware of this opportunity? What knowledge do you have of the mental health board, and why are you interested in being on the board? 3-part question.
Okay. I don't remember exactly how I found it, but I believe I found it myself. I don't think anybody made me aware of it. I think it was found through social media, probably for myself. Well, maybe it was because of the referendum, actually, when the referendum was originally on the ballot, that I became aware of it, reading about the ballot. But regardless, I, became aware of it, I'm pretty certain on my own. And, I was very excited about the board. I bring a different perspective, I think, because of, sort of not coming from the traditional mental health arena. But having leadership experience, a lot of nonprofit consulting experience, some evidence-based management experience. And so I thought I would be able to serve if something was important to me. To serve my community, this is a very important cause. And I thought this would be a good fit.
Why is it important to you?
For many reasons, I think, I have, yeah, many reasons. I see the crisis that is happening all around our community. Just that's it.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Renee?
Trustee Geis asked all the good ones.
Trustee Robinson?
I just noticed
Something about stuff.
one bullet point, areas of expertise, neurodiversity awareness. Do you think that's gonna play a role in part of the mental health board? What you can bring to that?
I do. I'm going to be teaching a program on that at DePaul in the spring. I think it's a missing piece for instance, leadership development to not understand neurodiversity. And so, yes, I think it's always happening.
Thank you.
Okay, and then Christine?
My name is Christine Carlson. I live in neighborhood just inside the border of the township. And I hope to join the mental health board. I don't know if I should answer your question that you asked her, if I should say more about what I do now.
Tell us about you.
Okay, I'm a marriage and family therapist, so I have my own business, which I started just last year. So I guess I'm a new entrepreneur, figuring out the business aspect of things, but I really enjoy working with a wide variety of ages and issues. And so that's my job.
Any trustees with any other questions?
I would like to hear some of your.
Trustee McGovern?
Some of your ideas that maybe in seeing the minutes from the 708 board, what are some ideas that you're thinking? Like what would really improve services to our area, or what are some gimmicks like you might have? Been thinking about anything?
I don't know about gimmicks or any quick answers, but I certainly have a perspective of more from a community mental health aspect. So I would be very interested, especially in preventative care. I think that's where I have had more experience. I worked in a school system in Sweden, so not here, a very different system. But for 13 years, so I think catching things before it becomes a bigger issue is always going to be something that's important to me. It's not only more cost effective, it's also more emotional cost effective. It's less damaging to catch things earlier. So I think that would probably be one of my bigger passions.
Trustee Page?
I think your experience, what I'm reading here is really amazing. My only question would be actually to the chair is, do we have any other counselors currently on the board?
Counselors, we have one retired substance use disability
Okay,
specialist.
that's the only one?
Gina Sharp, who you're
Mhm.
probably aware of.
Mhm.
She has 50 therapists under her wing.
Mhm.
So I might count as.
So that's a good addition. Thank you.
Trustee Geist?
I love prevention is everything, right? So it's really the risk management in life. Understanding what the risks are so that you can manage them and limit them. So anything we can do prevent is really important. Do you have any ideas about that yet? I've put you on the spot, but just, I guess I am putting you on the spot, but do you have any ideas of what prevention looks like? You know, with quite a disparity in care, right? Especially from a diversity perspective. So, do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, I have some big dreams, but I'm not sure that they can all be implemented at the same time. But I think there is a disparity in terms of access. And this I know from my own personal experience. I mean, in order for me to make a living, I have to be able to accept insurance or private pay clients. And not everyone has insurance that will pay for mental health. And I think those people have very long waiting lists to get in to receive services. So I think there's something to be said for the access.
Yeah.
Finding maybe alternative ways to provide care that shift the, not burden, but the privilege of caring for people who maybe fall outside of the traditional guardrails that insurance provides, I suppose.
Thank you.
And Yosh, I apologize, please, I know you had come from California to be here at this time, and I appreciate any information that you have.
Yes. Sorry, trustee, about that. I left out an important piece to your question. I forgot our brand new, a relatively new member, Dr. Joanne Wright, who is semi-retired, but is still practicing in therapy. So Christine, if she's approved, would be our third either active or retired therapist. One of the things to provide you, I don't know if you and Attorney Seckler have discussed the title.
Yes,
All right, thank you.
we did. And there was, in particular, in the resolution, it's the main piece that was changed was and y'all, can see on page 1, 1 and 2, the exact same term, but we want to make sure that it's clear when their term ends. And that would be January 3rd, 2025. And I see that there's 2025, it's 2024, realize that, so, it will be, that's the piece to note, is that needs to, I just saw that typo. And we just had brought that to our attention, so I will make sure that that is amended. Because they're filling already terms that were previously appointed. And they are the only two applicants. Does anybody want to make a motion to approve?
I will make a motion to approve our present applicants.
Second.
Thank you, trustee McGovern and trustee Geist. And in discussion to begin with, Ross, is that the proper way that we need to make the motion, or do we need to amend the motion to say ordinance number 2024?
I would suggest a motion to approve resolution number 2024-001, a resolution appointing members of the Lisle Township Community Health Board with the amendment of the term to clarify that the term of Christine Carlson would be to complete the remaining unexpired portion of the 2-year term beginning on January 11, 2024 and ending January 3rd, 2025. That would be my suggested motion if anyone wanted to so move.
So you say,
I would like to make a motion to approve resolution number 2024-001, a resolution to appoint two members of the community to our 708 mental health board with Christine Carlson. The term will be amended to its conclusion on January 2025.
thank you, trustee McGovern. Is there a second?
A second.
Thank you, trustee Page. And we're in discussion and I see Yosha's hand up, so I just want to make sure that.
Yes, it's just on the wording of the resolution, because the resolution reads to complete the remaining unexpired portion of the two-year term, which actually I would write it as, which began on January 4, 2023, and ending on January 3, 2025. Maybe it's pretty secular, but we're just waiting in on those.
Okay, and thank you, Yosh. I know you have you're an attorney as well. So, Ross, what are your thoughts?
But that's fine. What it says now is that it's just the unexpired portion of that two-year term. And so that portion starts on the 11th tomorrow and ends in January 3rd of 2025. It's really whatever, if the board prefers it to say that the entire term started in 23 and ended in 25, it's neither.
I think we're good with the way it says.
Okay. Can we have clerk follow it?
I was just gonna ask, so with adding the two new members, how many do we have now on the mental health board?
9.
That's 9, and then that's total, that's full.
That's true.
Okay,
And they're all volunteers. Is there a motion, a roll call? Yes, they're all volunteers. So is there to be meaning that they're not paid as mental health board members?
we know that. Got it,
We
got
created
it.
the board.
We're
We
done.
know that.
Okay, did you want a roll call?
Yes,
I
please.
apologize. Trustee McGovern,
Yes.
trustee Page.
Yes.
Trustee Geis,
Yes.
trustee Robinson.
Yes,
Supervisor Hewitt.
Yes. Welcome.
yeah.
Welcome, thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, the motion passes in discussion and possible action on ordinance number 2024-02. Is there a motion to postpone this?
Yes, I would like to postpone this to the next monthly meeting.
Okay, and is there a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? And a roll call vote, please.
Trustee McGovern,
Yes.
trustee Geis,
Yes.
trustee Page. Yes. Trustee Robinson.
Yes,
Supervisor Hewitt.
Yes. Discussion and possible action about acquiring a credit card from Wintrust without a policy.
We skipped over
relative-
11.
I think we skipped.
Sorry,
11.
moving to discussion and possible action on 2024-002, an ordinance approving and adopting a credit card policy. So, sorry, we went through, I missed 10, which is, no, 2, sorry. Discussion and possible action on ordinance number 2024-02, an ordinance approving and adopting a credit card use policy for Lisle Township without a purchasing policy. Trustee Geis.
Attorney Seckler, why
Yes.
are we revising this again?
What, and this hasn't, there's no revision to it.
This
There's
is
been no,
Let's say-
I think it's just been on the agenda. I haven't done any work on this.
All right, so I'll,
So,
should I raise my hand again?
Trustee Geis.
So I'm just trying to understand why we're even looking to adjust this policy. The whole reason why we had to remove the privilege of the credit card use was because of the unapproved expenses, which was part of the reason that we had a vote of no confidence back in September with the supervisor. So now we had to approve a spend by email so that we could make sure we took care of the staff for the holiday luncheon. And then we approved a dollar amount for that, but we already exceeded it without approval because we extended the spend to purchase lunch for the people that we were being billed for to have here working for us. My concern about this is that I feel like we're not improving.
Okay, and to be extremely clear, the debit card, which was created, was improperly created and in a lot of ways that has created a lot of accounting issues because it was never funded properly. So there was never, ever a single dollar that was inappropriately spent. Every single dollar has been fully verified and accounted for. And if the debit card hadn't been created improperly, then this whole issue wouldn't be a problem. So again, we still do not have a credit card, so I am personally every month required to spend hundreds and thousands of my own dollars to pay for, and again, this is why you have reimbursements every month for basic township expenses. So paper for passports, a coat for our driver, cleaning materials should not come out of, and generally do not come out of a supervisor's personal accounts.
That's a choice that
And
you're
that's,
making. They call
again,
it an
because we
invoice.
wouldn't have,
Call a purchase
for
order.
example,
We've told you this month after month.
and again, we didn't
But
have
don't get
policies and
truth.
procedures for any of this. And again,
You're giving
every
me truth.
single dollar has been fully accounted for and understood. Trustee Robinson, did you have anything to say
I do,
about?
I
Thank
do,
you.
two things.
I'm not gonna continue. to abuse facility.
The lunch, it was approved, a lunch for.
The
staff.
lunch was.
The lunch was approved by staff. I'll be honest, I think it was a little bit, we did not set a limit, so we did not say an upper limit. And I know that the accountants were invited. I would have done the same thing. New people coming in, I would have invited them. So I'm not gonna say the supervisor would have done anything differently there.
That so diminishes.
So
the
trustee
celebration
guys,
lunch.
trustee Robinson is speaking.
I apologize.
I don't see it that way, but you might. To me, they're joining our firm, or our township. They're here for a year. We want them to meet and join as part of the group. So I would always include new personnel, but that's the way I approach
I
it.
think that's a
So
good point.
trustee
I wasn't-
guys,
I
can
wasn't-
we,
I
again,
wasn't
everybody
before,
has
though.
time to speak without being spoken over.
But I
Trustee
wasn't done
Robinson.
before. You interrupted me
And trustee
before.
Robinson was talking, so can we hear the rest from trustee Robinson?
So I want to park that one. It is awkward. We have made it very, very difficult for the supervisor to buy things. And maybe there was some historic issues there. We've made this decision to bring in a interim township administrator. I want us to focus on how we can make this efficient and a good process for purchases. I think the township needs a credit card. I think we have to have, and we do have a purchasing policy, which sets limits on what the supervisor can buy. I know, and my understanding is there was a draft about 2 or 3 months ago. We as trustees said, and based on guidance, a lot of thought was, we want to revise this. We have not done that yet. So I would ask the supervisor to task our new interim township administrator to get this done, to get these policies done and get them approved and get a credit card so that we can do purchasing. And that, because the supervisor is going their own pocket. She's said, okay, we bought this. I go with her. I say, okay, I see that we received it. I sign off on it. So that's not an efficient way for us to be running this right now.
Right, so this was literally cleaning supplies that if we don't have supplies to clean the refrigerator, I am personally required to spend that. Or we don't have supplies to do some basic cleaning. Clerk Politz.
I'm not sure if you were here then through all the misuse and the overspend on the credit card. Through
Never
all
an
that. And
overspend.
I'm speaking my turn. And this was done on purpose. This was done because you are not supposed to be using your own personal credit card. No one's asked you to, nobody wants you to. It's been said over and over. What you're supposed to do, that we've said for months and months, is to plan ahead. To order paper, you order paper, and then it gets invoiced and you pay for it. We have supply companies. If you want to order a jacket, you order a jacket, and then you pay for it by invoice. You are not to be using your credit card, that you're choosing to. Home Depot, we approved a Home Depot purchase for the highway commissioner today, because he has an account with Home Depot where you can get all the supplies for cleaning. No one is asking you to do that. And I know you're getting all worked up by it, but you just need to plan ahead. The other part that is a little bit wrong of what you're saying is, we were tasked with writing this, and I spent many, many hours doing this, and I sent it out to all of you for feedback, and I did get feedback, and then I did send it back to Attorney Seckler, and Attorney Seckler said that there were things that he would do differently, not necessarily that they're illegal, but he would do differently. So, it's just wording things to get done. But at this point, I thought the idea of getting a township administrator, one of his highlights was that he is able to work on our policies and we don't have to spend the big money with the attorney. They could just review just to make sure, because really all we're looking for, with all due respect, Attorney Seckler, is for
No.
your legal opinion to it. What you feel, you'd like to put in there, what's legal and what's not. So that's where it was. So there was a lot of work on it. And I know this is the same one that keeps getting added back to it. I'm not sure why the same one gets added back to the agenda, but this is the same one as the original. So it doesn't make sense. So at this point, my suggestion is wait a moment for the new township administrator. Look what I got, look what was proposed, and go together with that. That's my suggestion with
So,
16 seconds.
And again, a lot of what you just said was inaccurate.
Not at all.
Trust,
No, you cannot
Ross,
say that
Attorney
and not give me
Claire
time.
was just not being billed for any of this. I've personally been amending the dates and the numbers on this because there was not anything that was reasonable that was being proposed. And great, it'll be really helpful for the township administrator to help come up with a policy that we sorely need. Home Depot, in particular, you cannot always order everything in advance. You don't always know what you need well in advance. And in particular, everything cannot always be paid with a check. Not all institutions allow payment with a check.
I didn't pay for your.
Trustee Geist.
Oh, thank you, Calderwood, thank you. So Barry, you're right. Trustee Robinson, you're right. It is polite when you have company to include them. But also, is it polite to expect hourly employees to check out for their company celebration and yet to save money, but yet we provided lunch? Do you agree with that?
I don't know that.
You don't know what part?
So here's the thing, not,
No,
they're
I
not
was-
hourly,
No.
they're a monthly, so they're not
I'm
in an hourly form, so
I'm asking,
trustee.
I'm asking your opinion. So if we're gonna spend the money to include our guests, which is the polite thing to do, and you're right, I would have done the same thing, but I also wouldn't deduct time from our hourly employees who are attending a holiday lunch.
It's a tough one, depends how it was presented, if it was optional or mandatory.
Was it optional or mandatory?
Okay, and to be extremely clear, the hourly people have to take a break. If you are the state law requires that people working over what is it, Ross? Over how long, we're required to give them a break. Is that correct?
Yes, and that, yeah, if I may just interject on some of it, I do think, and to, go along with what Madam Clerk was saying, there was a lot of work done by the clerk and by the trustees. I reviewed it. I believe that was prior to the last meeting or 2 meetings ago, and I had a few legal issues, and yes, there were some stylistic issues mixed in with that, of course, and then there were some legal things to discuss, but I fully support and think it is a fantastic idea, and the board can likely move on from there to have the administrator in his professional capacity work on these policies to make two workable or policies that we know will actually function. The township having a credit card, even if the request for the expenditure are done in advance and planned for especially for most things, or if they're recurrent expenditures like Office 3 for Google Drive or what have you, Google Workspace. Those are all workable things that I'm sure the interim township administrator is very well capable of doing, and I would be happy to review and work in a limited or whatever capacity the administrator may need, but I imagine that would be much more limited given his professional background and experience. So I would recommend postponing this as well. because to let the administrator come in and this would be a main part of his job and function. I know that everyone's been working very hard on this and thinking a lot about this, and everyone has a lot of opinions, and that's great. And I think that the professional opinion of the administrator to put that all together and make something that really works well should be tried.
Thank you, Attorney Seclair. Is there a motion to
No, 'cause you didn't answer my
postpone 11, 12, and 13?
I'd like my
Trustee
question
Robinson?
answered. I'd like my question answered.
So trustee Geist, what do you feel wasn't answered?
I asked a question. When Barry said it depended on how it was, trustee Robinson said it depends on how it was presented. I then turned to you and said, how was it presented? And you started to answer, but then Attorney Seckler jumped in and he went on to do the other topic of the approval of the resolution.
I'm sorry.
I don't understand what your question is. What was presented?
I'm one of the most articulate people I know. I'm kidding, that's a joke. The point is, how was it presented to staff?
How was
staff-
what presented?
We
The
are
option,
trying to save
the
money.
option to actually take lunch and be
Did you
the
tell them they had to
requirement.
take lunch? Did you tell them they had to leave early because they didn't take a lunch because they were at the holiday event? Like, what's the process? I want to know what the process was.
Okay, so everyone that is an hourly must take again, Attorney Seclair.
See, this is what
And I want to make sure that we're super clear. What is the state law regarding how many hours that somebody has to work? And then they're required, meaning in the employee manual, because state law requires us to have everyone take an hour break.
Well, it was a
What is
break.
the
holiday
hour?
lunch was a break.
Yeah.
Holiday lunch is a
Every
break.
single day. And again, would you let Attorney Seclair answer this question? How many hours does the state law? I don't recall right off the top of my head.
I believe it's if someone's supposed to work 7.5 continuous hours, then they have to they have to have at least like between a half hour or 20 minutes to an hour long break. And it's long if they work longer. So it's around there. There are mandated break times and they don't have to be paid and it's relatively normal, but that doesn't, I think it's whether this particular hit was if they had to be here or if they could go maybe on their own lunch or something.
There's a holiday lunch, Attorney Seclair, there was a holiday lunch and a going away for the Lisa Rose who resigned, right? So it was her going away in the holiday lunch that had not previously been scheduled. And so it was encouraged to be scheduled, so it was scheduled and staff attended it. So that to me is an employee event, a employer event. So why would they have to clock out? If we're trying to save and watch the spend, we're gonna ask employees to clock out for a holiday, for a company event, but we're going to still afford the
And-
spend. Does that
And
make
again,
sense?
again,
It's not really an
the
attorney question,
township
really,
is
it's a leadership
required,
question.
is the township required to follow state law and make sure that every employee
This is-
takes their hour break in a day? Attorney
did take
Seclair,
a
isn't
break
that
at the
what
holiday
is
lunch.
required
What?
of every employee?
They took
That
the
they
break at
follow the
holiday
state
lunch.
law and take their hour break.
They did take it. The
So
holiday lunch
Attorney
is the
Seclair,
break.
are you Attorney Seclair, trustee guys, would you answer that question that every employee is required to take their hour-long break in
That's not the question, Attorney Seclair, do you think that that's the question that I'm asking?
I think the question is whether they were required to attend this particular event. And that's, if it was, most of these are, they may have felt that they wanted to attend, but it was probably not required. And if they're hourly employees, they wouldn't really, you wouldn't really need to have them clocked in because it would be technically their lunchtime. But that's, and I would want to look at the policy manual, I guess, to see. But if they're supposed, if they're on break, if it's their lunch break, then, you know, technically they could have gone, I guess, out to lunch or, you know, not been, it's awkward, but you don't have to have them clock. You don't have, if they're on their regular lunch, essentially, and it's a break, unless it really is a mandatory employee event, like if it was a training or something, that would be a little different, but it's a little bit of a weird area, you know.
You expect the entire township to come to a halt and everyone in the township to stop working, stop serving the public for an hour in order to do this, and understanding that for at least 25 minutes, I was personally making sure that I was the receptionist so that everybody could at least attend.
I'm sorry that we're not getting through the agenda fast enough, but that was an important point to make. I'm sorry, I apologize, but that's an important point to make. No one's saying that no one should not have a break. No, you're totally taking what I've said and changing the whole message. The message is the employees who attended an employee event should not be penalized by that hour for the event.
There is no penalization for following state law. Okay, is everybody done with that? Would anybody like to make a motion to postpone 11, 12, and 13?
I would like to make a motion to table 11, 12, and 13.
And I'll second.
Thank you, trustee McGovern and trustee Page, and a roll call vote.
Trustee.
Any any discussion on that further?
With 13 as well, with the bank, just the banking facility, that's just for the bank.
There's an opening and approving of a credit card aspect of that.
But we're not getting, yeah.
So we're not getting a credit card, so that all has to be amended, and there's.
Okay.
other motion. So. And a roll call vote. Clerk
Trustee
Hollowitz.
McGovern,
Yes.
trustee Page,
Yes.
trustee Geist, trustee Robinson.
Yes.
Supervisor Hewitt.
Yes. Okay, and then on 14, discussion and possible action on resolution 2024-03, a resolution authorizing the designation of signatories with respect to banking transactions. Trustee Geist.
In the past, my understanding was we only had 2 elected officials as signers. So that's the lead trustee and the supervisor, the 2 elected. Why are we adding another trustee to the signer?
Because Lisa Rose, who was was here on a daily basis, is no longer here on a daily basis.
So who else?
We have a township administrator that is temporary. And so again, as you can see in the packet, it would be trustee Robinson, who is retired and is very available, as opposed to you who are busy. Is there anything that you would like to say, trustee Robinson?
Well,
No, I'm not too busy to sign checks. I live 5 minutes away and I work 5 minutes away. I'm the lead trustee. I was an elected trustee. So I take issue with you saying that I'm not available to sign.
I didn't say that you weren't available. I
Every
said that.
time
you-
I've been asked to sign a check, I signed it.
the only thing is, we talked about, is this aligned with part of the finance committee? So, a part of that role as well. So,
I think there's need to remain a checks and balances there, and I think that it's too close.
Okay, does anybody want to make a motion to approve resolution number 2024-03?
I do have a question.
Clerk Hollowitz.
Do we actually need another signatory? So do we have Supervisor Hewitt, you sign the checks like you will here, I'm attesting them. Or there's two people, 2 trustees, 2 elected officials signing it, 2 signers, you and trustee Geist. I'm around as for right now, the checks are, you sign them, I attest, we're done, that's one check, that's done. Right?
Yeah.
Or you could sign it with trustee Geist, I do not know if I'm allowed to attest to you signing it, but I think I can.
Yeah.
So we have it.
You have.
Yeah, do you know
Yeah,
what
so
I'm
why-
saying?
why is that on the table?
3 people already who can
Correct.
sign, so why do we need to add a 4th? It seems.
Right,
Okay, and so here's when the checks need to be, when
Right.
there is an issue, is that when somebody presents a some kind of a notice that they're about to be evicted, for example, there's often not a lot of time in order to make sure that that check is turned around.
I understand.
And in order to make sure that people are not evicted, when you're on vacation perhaps, or seeing a family member, we would need to make sure that there is the other option. So again, we had 4 people on this. If you don't want to do that, then there's a higher potential of issues happening.
Trustee Robinson goes on vacation and he's often unavailable as well. I'm 5 minutes away. I'm a text away. My house is on the other side of the trees. My business is down the street. I'm just confused as to why you're making the suggestion. I have not been available.
I didn't make that suggestion.
You have.
I said that the main reason Lisa Rose is no longer
He
here,
was an employee.
and we are not putting that into a current employee's hands. So trustee Robinson,
I didn't realize that there was 3 signatories, but I do think we need a second trustee who can sign in case you're not available or that other person is not available for
We're
whatever.
right here.
No,
we
no,
can
no,
sign it.
holiday, travel,
We're not,
illness.
she's, all 3 of us can sign.
So,
And
I
when
attest.
was the last time?
I'm the second line.
Yeah,
so it doesn't need 2 signatures plus your
No.
signature. It just needs 2 signatures.
correct,
Okay, so we have 3 people,
correct.
2 of which,
For 3 years. It's worked really well.
no, we didn't have 3 people. We had 4 people for the entire time up until now. Okay,
I
so
would also
we do not,
suggest that some
have
of the
that.
checks have been signed out of cycle because of too many signatures.
Correct.
That's the problem, too many cooks.
Correct.
okay. So is there, we'll go on to motion 15, it sounds like.
well, I think we have to
Because
make a
there's not-
motion to not,
There's not a
No,
motion.
just leave
that-
it.
Just leave it? good,
Where we
Good.
go on. So discussion and possible action about the job description and role of the township administrator. Trustee Page,
When does he begin? Have we given him his start date?
yes, tomorrow morning
Run.
at 8 AM.
And is there arrangements for, is anybody on this board going to be, has anybody been invited to meet him, to come to the township, nobody?
So,
I will come tomorrow morning.
Okay.
I think that's very appropriate.
So should we bring like bagels or donuts?
Well, that, I think there can't be 2 trustees and a supervisor.
It's not a meeting.
Well, it's on.
It's township business.
Yeah, it's, if you're talking any sort of official business or work at the township and it's 3 of you, unfortunately, it kind of counts as a meeting.
So, and to be very clear, in the morning at 8 o'clock, there's gonna be some basic pieces of, here's your computer, and there's some information that need to be conveyed. So if there's too many people, we can't convey that basic information.
What you could do is, and sorry to interrupt, but you can almost do like, you know, one, if there's more than 2 of you just around and you're not talking township business, just saying introductions and niceties is one thing. And you can also do kind of what we call 2x2s, where 2 people talk to the administrator at a time and not talk township business when there's 3 people around, 3 members of the township board around. It's annoying, I know, but there's little workarounds you can do. It just,
Thank you for clarifying that, because that's what I believe to be true too, as long as we weren't discussing township.
Trustee Page,
So if he's gonna be here starting at 8, he'll probably need an hour and a half or something to get himself. Maybe I'll show up around 9:30, 10 o'clock.
great.
Yeah, all right.
Trustee Robinson.
Well, I would like to make a motion to approve the job description that was recommended by the Personnel Committee relative to this role.
I would like to second that.
Thank you, trustee Robinson and trustee McGovern. Any other discussion? Then the Highway Commissioner Young.
Who does he report to?
The board.
The board,
Throw,
not to supervisor.
The board.
Okay, and a roll call vote, Clerk Polowitz.
Well, was there more discussion on this? I think there was.
Is there more discussion from a trustee?
No?
Okay, then a roll call vote.
Okay, trustee Robinson?
yes,
Trustee McGovern?
Yes.
Trustee Page?
Yes.
Trustee Geis?
Yeah.
Supervisor Hewitt?
Yes. Update about the 2023 audit from Sikich and Lauterbach and Amen. Kelly or trustee Kelly, would you like to say anything to begin with?
I can, so I met with the auditors this morning, from Sickage. And, kind of went through, they're gonna send us an open items list, by the end of the week. They've given us access to the exchange portal document exchange. So that we're able to supply them with any items that they need once they give us that open items list and then review them. So that was this morning.
The only thing I can add,
Trustee Robinson?
thank you, that there were questions prior to your onboarding, relative to some payroll liability accounts. And the supposition is that they may be related to the IMRF resolution. So, I'm not sure, but we have some guidance from Janice Pappas as to what she did, and I've shared that with the audit firm as well, and I'll forward it back to you as well, so they've got that.
Yeah, they did mention that this morning that they were gonna send us some of that information, so they were trying to wrap up everything that they needed that was open, and they did mention the payroll liability, so we should get all that by the end of the week. They said.
Thank you, Kelly. Any other questions or discussion?
No, and the only thing I'll say is they've expressed urgency around at least weekly meetings to get this done.
How much longer did they?
Wait, Commissioner Young.
How much longer do you think it's going to, or do they think it's going to? You have any idea?
No. Once we get that open items list and we're able to work through, it sounds like they received a new trial balance in December that they've been working on, so they're gonna give that to us as well to make sure that what they have matches what our QuickBooks is. But there haven't been any other adjustments that have been made, that they're not aware of. And so once we see that open items list, then I think we'll be able to further have meetings and check-ins with them to see how long this will take.
Thank you, Kelly. Finance Committee update, Trustee Robinson?
Well, just very briefly, obviously we've onboarded, Rebecca, thank you for being part of this. The second is that we have talked about having to do a amended budget and appropriations document for the current fiscal year. And the plan, my understanding, just based on preliminary discussions, is that will be done in conjunction with budget setting for next year. So effectively, there'll be two documents or two sets of approvals current year to get it. So that whatever expenses have exceeded our lines, they're taken care of, and then using that as a guide for the next year as well. And that'll be up to basically the county firm and the new township administrator to a large extent. So pleased to hand that off to those folks. That's it, thanks.
Thank you, Trustee Robinson. Reports from elected officials. Highway Commissioner Young?
You big snow, it wasn't that big, it was even wet. You got a lot of mailbags, because when you push that snow goes, you go something. My wife went to play bunco. The house she goes to play bunco, that's unincorporated Lisle Township. Your mailbox is laying down. So. And we expected, they went from 4 o'clock in the morning until about 8 o'clock. Because it's just twins. We expect the same thing starting tomorrow. Yeah,
I heard Friday's gonna be worse, right? So
that's what we're seeing. Yeah, it's supposed to be much heavier and more of it.
I have to applaud you because I can tell the difference between the roads in Lisle, incorporated and unincorporated. When you go to the next town, no disrespect to the towns, but our fair pavement policy, no. Or whatever you call it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're just more trying to. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Assessor Trowbridge, I know we've taken a whole lot of calls about the letters that went out about the increased assessments. Do you have a report?
No report, thank you.
Trustee Geist?
I don't know.
Trustee McGovern?
No report. Thank you.
Trustee Page?
Nothing for me.
Anything more, Trustee Robinson?
no, thank you.
Clerk Palowitz?
I will just add happy Martin Luther King's Day on Monday. Excited that I am part of an advisory group that has brought back, if you remember, the Martin Luther King breakfast that was always at Benedictine. And that went away for a while. It's back, but it's not at Benedictine. It's at Drury Lane. It's now a sold out event with over 800 people. They're starting a fund. This is a first year. It's going to get larger and bigger, led by Dan Wagner from Inland Real Estate, but all the top names that you would recognize are all part of the group. And it's been, no, I'm not the top name. I was the original advisory group, but I got a lot bigger and a lot more important than me. But it's going to be quite the event, quite the speakers, and it's really incorporating all of DuPage County. So it's something we should all be proud of.
That's awesome.
Very,
Very
very
cool. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you. Is there any other old business?
Supervisor, do you have a report? No.
I already went
Okay,
through.
thank you.
Any other old business?
I would just like to re-raise the point that, and I think that this evening's conduct is also an example of it. It's not been, I don't know if that's been itemized in the vote of no confidence that was issued in September, but I would just like to remind the public that this board issued a vote of no confidence and asked the supervisor for her resignation in September of 2023, and that is still on the table. Thank you.
And
additionally,
on the.
any other old business?
As well, I'd like to ask if the supervisor, after our last discussion regarding, I believe I used the wrong term, but in Trello, did you find the former supervisor's Trello software where she itemized what was going on for each of the township, each of the monthly meetings?
Yes,
Okay, so we do have that,
of course.
of course, so the statement that you made at that last meeting was incorrect.
No, it was not incorrect. What you said was that there was a book. There is no book. There's an application called Trello with information in it. And I will make it into a printed piece that everybody can have, and it could be a book, but it is not currently a book. Is there anything else?
So,
It's a first
so
world book.
I want to make sure that I got this, correct. I believe I said it was a manual. I don't believe I said it was a book.
Okay, we can go through and we can
We
review that
The
move,
question
that
that I'm asking.
recording.
Question that I'm asking is when the question first came up, you said it did not exist. I'm saying that I'm asking you at this particular time, were you able to see that there was in fact software called Trello in which this information was made, that this information is in possession of Lisle Township?
Again, the word book, manual, is not the same as an application with information in it. And so to be precise, there is no book or manual, and we can go through and review that. I will get the words exactly verbatim, but when I say an application called Trello, and I said at the time that the information in Trello does exist, it is not a manual or a book. Okay, any other old business? New business? And we didn't get any minutes. So is there
I didn't raise my hand for new business. I have a quick question. We invested in security cameras for the premises. And I had scheduled an appointment with you for a 9 a.m. Review of the security cam footage that would have been recorded from the evening before. And you told me to come at the time I came. And I came at that time, and you put a manual down in front of me and pointed to a monitor. And I tried to figure it out. I looked at the directions, I looked at the monitor, and I was so tired because we had been here so late the night before. It didn't occur to me, why am I looking at a monitor? Where is the actual computer that this is attached to? And when I asked you, wait, where's the computer? You're like, oh, it's locked in the finance director's office. Well, then why did I took time out of my workday to drive here at the time that you scheduled? And then when it came time to do it, you weren't helpful to me. You told me you were too busy and you couldn't help me, and then I could wait till the next week. I just want to understand how the security camera works, because my understanding was there were supposed to be two computers that fed into. So if one is locked in the finance director's office, where is that second computer? And do you recall pointing me to a monitor that was not attached to anything? So how was I supposed to make the monitor do what I needed it to do to review footage if it's literally a computer monitor? And you gave me a manual this big. You went like this. Here you go. And walked away.
So I was busy at the time. It was not the scheduled time that we had
It was
agreed
the time,
to.
the scheduled time.
It was
I
not.
had to hire someone to come in and work so I could come at the time that works for you.
It was not. And again, to be very clear, all of the videos are kept for a month. And I did not have, I didn't think that it was proper to let you into the finance director's office without having permission as well. So if you would like to review this with the township administrator, that would be a great place and time to do that. I'm supposed to be a part-time employee, which I
You
am very much
you
not.
scheduled that time in an email, in writing, you committed to that time to me.
We can
And I
review
honored
that.
it, and
We
I
can review
honored
that.
that time.
We can
In
review
fact,
that.
in my original
What's there
request,
to review?
I
Because
requested.
we
the
very
date.
much disagree with the course of events
No.
in your story. I very
My
much
story?
disagree, yes. So
I
we
requested,
can
no,
again,
I'm talking. I requested a time to meet with you. It was completely unprofessional to have me come at that time, plop a paper down in front of me and point to a monitor that wasn't attached to anything. It's in email. Ross Seckler was on the email where I made the request, but you left him off of the response. I came at the time that you gave me in the response. I came on time.
okay, we can review all of that. Thank
You
you.
don't need to review it.
Okay,
I
it's
wanna
a
know
different
where
story. We have a
is
very
the-
different memory of the event.
Well, you know what? There's probably some really good reasons as to why that is, but I'm not the one has charges pressed against them. So moving on, how do we access this footage moving forward?
You can talk to the township administrator. Any other questions?
I'd like to clarify. The incident that trustee Geist is referring to is that her car was vandalized while she was in this meeting. And to deny her access in an appropriate time to see who did the vandalism is unconscionable.
Does 3 PM work for you? Also, does 3 PM work for you?
Okay, we could review when
And
you
I
got here.
came at 3 PM.
We can review when you got here.
She was here at 3 PM because I was here when she walked in.
Okay, and I didn't know that, again,
No, you just got caught in a lie.
that's not
That's
true.
what it is. And that's why you're not trustworthy.
That's very much not true. And we can review all the
We
videos
just,
and
you
discuss
just,
it
you
at the
just got
next.
caught on the lie in front of
That's
everyone
not
sitting here.
true,
You just-
trustee Ice.
Which part is not true?
Your story that you're saying,
It's
I
not-
don't believe is accurate. So again,
Which part is inaccurate?
we can review this with,
I've got the
I need a
email
little
right
bit of
here.
time to review the videos, because frankly, all of this is on video. And it can be all accessed. So the township has a month policy of
People
when
continue to give
everything.
you excuses for bad behavior. They
Trustee
continue
Geis.
to want they give you excuses for bad behavior, and I've just given an example of why it's so difficult to work with you. Because you do mean things like this. You have people take time out of their workday and drive here, plop a stack of papers in front of them, and point to a monitor that wasn't attached to any type of computer device. Now,
I think
it
we're-
hasn't happened to anyone else here at the table yet. But that's what the story was too before, trustee Page and former trustee Rose. They all thought that it was just me misinterpreting the unique behavior, the way you treat me uniquely as the only minority member of this board. Okay, I'm not done. But until they were treated badly, they didn't understand it. And now trustee Rose, who became an employee, quit. This is an example of what I deal with. And you know what? I'm not gonna kowtow to you. I know everybody has this belief that it's okay for you to behave this way and to make excuses for you. I'm gonna hold you accountable for bad behavior. And this was bad behavior. It was rude, it was unkind, and it was very unprofessional. And when I asked for your help, I went in and said, I don't understand this. I don't have time to help you. And I came at the time that you said you would help me. Now you can go ahead and adjourn the meeting.
All of those can be reviewed. Is there anybody that wants to make a motion to adjourn the
I'll
meeting?
make a motion to adjourn.
Executive session, let's just make sure we review any.
No, I just wanted to commend in new business, wanted to commend the personnel committee for doing a really great job of meeting and reviewing the administrator position and making a recommendation and then having the board very efficiently approve it, so. Just wanna, not to detract from any of the issues, but just wanted to note the wins and some of the good things that are in processes, so commend the board for.
Okay,
I would.
there are
once
no
you-
minutes
once
to
you
be
confirm
approved.
my story, once you confirm my story, I want a public apology and written apology from you.
There are no minutes to be approved, so that's why there's nothing given to us. There's a motion to adjourn from trustee Robinson
Second.
and trustee McGovern. Any other discussion?
I know,
Motion is all in favor?
Aye.